Okay, guys, today we're going to be working on lesson 49. You need to take notes as we go. Make sure these are in your notebook. It's more of a review with decimals, but we know those decimal divas can get us down. So, starting our lesson, we have 144 thousandths being divided by 8. Always when you look to see, do I have a decimal in my division, in my divisor? I don't, so I'm good there. It's fine if you have a decimal in your dividend. In the house is what I like to call it. You just bring that decimal up. First thing, so you can go ahead. And then you say, well, 8 going to 0. No, it won't. 8 won't go into 1 either. Sorry, my pen's a little weird. Well, 8 going to 14? Yeah. 1 time. Minus 8. That leaves us with 6 left over. Bring down your 4. How many times will 8 go into 64? 8 times. Which is 64. And leaves me with no remainder. So my answer here is 0.018. Does that make sense? Everybody good? Okay, and so let's look at this next problem over here. We have 6 going into 9/10. I don't have a decimal in my divisor, so what I do is I just bring that decimal up. So I want you to bring that decimal up too. So I just bring it up right where it is, and then I do my normal division. 6 will not go into 0. 6 will go into 9. How many times? 1 time. Minus 6 leaves me with 3. Now here's the deal. I am team decimal here. If I'm team decimal, I cannot be team fraction too. So you're either going to write it as a decimal or as a fraction. So since it's already decimal, I'm going to have to add my 0 because 9 tenths is the same as 90 hundredths. We just say it different. And then I can bring my 0 down here. Will 6 go into 30? Yeah, it'll go into 30. How many times? Good job. 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Leaves me with no remainder. So 6 will go into 9/10, 15 hundredths. My answer will be 15 hundredths. Okay, sometimes we see it written like this: 5 and 2/10 divided by 4/10. So when I set this problem up, the first number we see always is my dividend. So I have 5 and 2/10 divided by 4/10. Now I have a decimal in my divisor, so I'm going to have to, I can't do that. What I like to say is that it's a zombie. It's a part of a person. It's not a whole number, right? It's a part of a number. So we have to make that a whole. So what do? We have to move that decimal over. We have to make that 4/10 whole. So for me to do that, for me to make it 4 wholes, I need to move the decimal just 1 time. And my rule is whatever I do outside, I have to do inside. So why don't you go ahead and make that note. Whatever you do outside, you have to do inside. And you know what I mean by that. That's kind of like a little, you have to do inside. And I apologize for my handwriting. So if I move it 1 time on the outside, I have to move it only 1 time on the inside. So I move it over, and then once it's moved, I just bring it up. So I bring that decimal up. Will 4 go into 5? Yeah, it'll go into 5 1 time. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract that. That leaves me with 1. I bring my next number down, which is 2. 4 goes into 12 3 times, minus 12. And luckily, we have no remainder. And so my answer is just 13. I could leave my decimal there, but it could hide behind its mama. Okay, sometimes when we see fractions, division, we'll see them like written as a fraction. Same thing, same rule applies. Whatever number, my dividend is always the first number. So this 1.2 is what I like to call go into my house. It's my dividend, 1 and 2/10. And then 4 hundredths is my divisor. Okay, here's what we do. Always check, do I have a decimal in my divisor? So that's your first step. You always do. Do you have a decimal in your divisor? And that'd be great for you to make a note. Do you have a decimal in your divisor? And we do have a decimal. What I like to think of it, it's a zombie. Do you want a part of a person coming to your house? No. So a division problem doesn't want a part of a number coming into its house, is what I like to be silly and call it. So I have to move my decimal how many times to make that whole? I have to move it this time 2 times. And the rule is, whatever I do outside, I have to do inside. So if I moved it 2 times here, I have to move it how many times in my dividend? I have to move it 2 times. So 1, 2. And sometimes we have these gaps. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a 0 there, and I'm going to leave my decimal right there and bring my decimal up. Now, so really my problem is just 4 going into 120 if I rewrote it. You don't have to. That's just if you want to make it neater. So 4 will not go into 1, so I have to put my 0 there. 4 will go into 12 3 times, minus 12. But do I have another number? Yes. 4 goes into 0 0 times. So my answer for this problem is 30. Okay, so this problem right here, now we have the second part. We have 1 44/100 divided by 6/10. Here's the deal. When we're dividing with a decimal, we cannot have that decimal in my divisor. So if I have a decimal in my divisor, we have to make it whole. So how many times do we need to move it to make it whole? 1 time. What I do outside, I have to do inside. Now, is it okay for me to have a decimal here in my dividend? Sure, you just bring it up. Raise the roof. Now 6 will not go into 1, but 6 will go into 14 2 times. Leaves me with 2. And then I bring down my 4. 6 goes into 24. How many times? 4 times. 4 times 6 is 24. When I subtract that out, that leaves me with a happy no remainder free problem. So my answer here is 144/100 divided by 6/10 equals 2 4/10. Now for this problem right here, I want you to pause the video and I want you to work this problem. After you've worked the problem, I want you to play the video back and I want you to check your answer with check your work with my work. So pause your video, write this problem down, and you work it. After you've done that, check it. Okay, so you should be finished with work. You're checking it now. I know 4 will not go into 4/10. I can't divide with 4/10. Currently, I want to make it a whole to make it easier on myself. So I move it 1 time. What I do outside, I do inside, and then I just bring it up. 4 will not go into 0. 4 will not go into 2, but 4 will go into 24 6 times. Minus 24. These are no. So my answer here is, my answer for this problem is 0 6/10. Or I could just say 6/10. Okay, like the last problem, I want you to write this problem down and I want you to pause the video and check your answer after you have worked it, okay? So after you write the problem, pause the video and go ahead and start. Okay, for this problem right here, I had to move my decimal 2 times. And I also had to move my decimal 2 times. Now, I didn't have another place, so I'm going to add a 0 here to make it where I can move it 2 times. And I just bring my decimal up. 5 will not go into 2, but 5 will go into 25. 5 times. Here's my 0. Bring my 0 down. And 5 will go into 0 times. So my answer here is 50. You should have gotten 52. Okay, just like earlier, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to write the problem down and I want you to work it on your paper. Now here's the deal. So pause the video, work, and after you finish working it, push play and check your work. Okay, so you finished your work. Here's what I want you to do. You should have moved your decimal 1 time. Now I don't see a decimal by all 9, but I know my decimal hides behind its mama. So my decimal was right here behind the 9. And I had to move it 1 time to make it right. So I move it 1 time and add my 0. Bring my decimal up. 3 will go into 9 3 times. Minus 9 gives me 0. Bring my 0 down. 3 will go into 0 0 times. So my answer here is 30. You should have gotten 32. Good job. And that concludes our lesson. Stay tuned for your work for today.